What's the most chilling space theory? Story 1. The false vacuum hypothesis. It's the idea that the universe is not at its lowest energy state, and that if something were to force it to the lower energy state, it would cause a chain reaction, destroying the universe as we know it and leaving what is essentially a new universe behind. The worst part is that we wouldn't even see it coming, as the propagation would travel at the speed of light. 1 second, the Earth exists, and the next, it's gone. Story 2. The Great Attractor is weird. It's something so powerful it pulls entire galaxies towards it, and I don't think we know why. Then, the Boots Void is weird. An entire swathe of space with no galaxies in it. It's just blank, empty space for an ungodly large amount. And we don't know why that is like that either. We live pretty much in the middle of the largest, possibly second largest, still disputed but widely supported, void we know about, though it's not as empty as the Bodas. The Bodas void actually has 60 known galaxies in it. It's theorized to be the merger of two smaller voids and is an expected feature of the universe. Galaxies naturally form filaments due to gravity. Voids are the spaces between these filaments, like the holes between the stitching on your shirt. A few years ago, a galaxy supercluster was discovered roughly in the area of the Great Attractor, which would explain its existence. It's just that it's been notoriously difficult to gather data about the area because it's blocked by the light and dust of our own galaxy without special observation methods. Story 3. That, beyond the observable universe, the actual entire universe might indeed be infinite in space and time. And after unimaginable but finite distances, everything repeats because matter and everything can also only have finite states to be in. And also, every possible variation of states of matter and energy will be in there, including yourself in slight or not so slight variation. On a closer note, I find the image that there are millions or however many planets in this galaxy alone, with mountains, lakes, and oceans, and clouds, and perhaps even plants and animals, with no humans ever. Like there could be countless paradise beaches where gentle waves of water hit the shore, and no one has ever seen them. I find that really chilling. The pure amount of things to discover. Story 4. Can anyone explain to me in ELI 5 why nothing can go faster than the speed of light? Sometimes stuff gets thrown in there, which is a curveball to my understanding. Everything is constantly moving at the speed of light through space-time. If something is completely motionless in space, that means it's moving through time at the speed of light. Once an object starts moving through space, that speed is taken away from the speed at which it's traveling through time. This is why really, really fast things move through time more slowly than things that aren't moving in space. That also means that once things reach the speed of light in space, there's no speed left over for them to be moving through time. They are motionless in time. So, in order to go even faster than that in space, the velocity in time would need to be negative, which just simply doesn't make sense. This explanation might be a bit incomplete, but that's my attempt to simplify it. Story 5. The dark forest theory solution to the Fermi paradox is pretty haunting. It essentially argues that advanced civilizations have learned to stay hidden or silent, out of fear of annihilation from other, more advanced civilizations across the cosmos. Here's a pretty cool excerpt from an article I found. The dark forest theory is described below by Liu Cixin, a Chinese science fiction writer, in his trilogy Remembrance of Earth's Past. The universe is a dark forest. Every civilization is an armed hunter stalking through the trees like a ghost, gently pushing aside branches that block the path and trying to tread without sound. Even breathing is done with care. The hunter has to be careful because everywhere in the forest are stealthy hunters like him. If he finds another life, another hunter, angel, or a demon, a delicate infant to a tottering old man, a fairy or demigod, there's only one thing he can do: open fire and eliminate them. Story 6. That will never ever explore more than 90% of the known universe. Even if we were to be able to travel at light speed, the universe is moving away from our position faster than that. If you were immortal and could travel at the speed of light, if you traveled and crossed over to the equivalence of the event horizon of our pocket of space, you wouldn't be able to travel back. More than likely, you'd be stranded in empty, vast space forever and have to watch twinkling lights fade to nothing over eons. Story 7. The Great Filter. Basically, maybe we can't find life in the cosmos because there is some universal event that every sentient society gets to that wipes them out. Perhaps there have been billions of civilizations in our galaxy in the past 13 billion years, but they've all destroyed themselves or been destroyed. Maybe, just maybe, we'll be the first to get through the Great Filter, meaning we'll be alone, probably forever. But more likely, we've still got that great surprise ahead of us. Maybe a quasar shoots us with gamma rays that destroy our whole solar system, just like how everyone else in the universe died. Or maybe we nuke ourselves into oblivion, leaving a barren rock that eventually gives over to a civilization of super intelligent tardigrades that will in turn blow themselves up. Who knows? Story 8. The Big Rip and Big Crunch Theories. The Big Rip theory states that if the expansion rate of the universe continues to accelerate, the fabric of the universe may stretch beyond its gravitational limit, tearing apart all matter in the universe in a big rip. Galaxies, stars, solar systems, planets, and eventually atoms and subatomic particles themselves would be torn apart and destroyed. On the contrary, the Big Crunch theory states that eventually the force of gravity will bring the universe's expansion to a halt and reverse it. All matter in the universe would then hurtle towards each other, colliding and bringing the universe to a state much like it was prior to the Big Bang, extremely hot, small, and dense. Based on the knowledge we currently have, the most likely outcome is neither. Regardless, the unexplained and unexpected are to be expected in space, so the notion that these futures are very possible makes my blood go cold. Story 9. Probably to say that outer space, the universe and planets don't exist at all, that we are not even living on a planet at all, that what we think is above us, outer space, is actually a fabricated illusion, that below us and above us are places completely unknown, and UFOs are of major significance. They come from deep in the ocean and underground and from far up in the sky, the secret masters and controllers of reality. I'm not saying I believe this, but if you want to explore the most far-fetched and farthest possibility from anything ever discussed with any seriousness, then this is it. Story 10. I'm rereading Our Mathematical Universe by Max Tegmark, which does a good job of explaining these concepts to non-astrophysicists. Currently at the part where it talks about the inflation theory of the universe, which is a lot like how an atomic bomb works. Take a minuscule amount of something, and it can blow up into something incredibly massive. Like doubling something each second, it very quickly becomes tremendous. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048, 4096, 8192. The Big Bang was doing this within fractions of a second. This is my limited understanding. What sparked this in the first place is still a mystery, despite how science can figure out what was happening within trillionths of a second of that spark. The book also discusses how inflation theory yields infinite universes, and the Big Bang is really the ending of another universe. Our own earthly concept of linear time could be what's making it impossible to comprehend, in my opinion. Story 11. I have a hard time understanding how something observable can be 13,000 billion light years away from us, when the universe is roughly the same age. By simple averages, that would mean the object and us should have separated at the speed of light for the whole time, aka both would be moving at 1/2 speed of light to opposite directions. Yet we are not moving anywhere that fast in relation to the object. And our velocity is increasing. So that means we've actually moved slower before. So how is this possible? This would be understandable if the universe was far older than 13.8 billion years. Then I could understand how some objects are that far away. But as it is, whoosh! Story 12. That we are ants. When building a highway, an ant's nest is nearby. The ants can see the highway being built, but have no idea what it's all about. And even if we wanted to explain to them, we couldn't, as their minds can't comprehend that. And it's nothing to us to completely destroy that ant's nest if it's in the way. The universe could be some sort of construction project by some beings that are on another level. We are an ant's nest nearby, and we'll never be able to comprehend what is actually going on. And one day, we might be in the way. Story 13. The fact that the chances of us encountering aliens is so astronomically and hilariously low. Think about how life on Earth was basically a fluke, and how it took billions of years to evolve into intelligent life, let alone intelligent life that can explore space. Then think about how many billions and trillions of galaxies and planets are out there. What are the chances that there's one that also just so happened to evolve to support life? And what are the chances that that life just so happened to evolve over billions of years to reach intelligence and the ability to understand the universe at the same exact time as us? What if there's alien civilizations from billions of years in the past that rose and evolved and fell, lost to space and time? What if they do exist, but they're trillions of light years away? We haven't even put humans on anything past the moon, and here I am still holding out hope that we meet aliens within the next 50 to 70 years. I'm only 21. It's kind of pathetic, lol. Story 14. That there might be no one out there and we could be the first to make it this far. Everything we do could either be a history lesson because we pass our knowledge on, or because a xenoarchaeologist from another world found our dead planet and pieced it together. The great filters that have yet to be passed will be navigated by us alone. No help will ever come, and we must claw our way to the stars with only our own tools and cleverness. We could be the old gods that we write stories about, or we could be doomed to become nothing but dust as our star expands to wash away everything. Story 15. The cold universe theory. Entropy wins. The idea of all the energy in the universe becoming dispersed to the point where nothing is left but cold matter floating endlessly into the void. Thinking about it chills me. When thoughts of entropy drags me down, it brings me comfort to think that logically, if the potential for the Big Bang existed once, it could exist again. Whatever the mechanism, big crunch, big rip, a singularity powerful enough to effectively reverse the expansion of the universe, I choose to believe that the life of the universe is cyclical in some fashion. Story 16. It was recently discovered that almost all of the dwarf galaxies near our own Milky Way galaxy have only just arrived in the neighborhood, and they're aligned nearly perpendicular to the plane. So these 30-some dwarf galaxies are new on the scene and are coming in hot. They will eventually collide with the galaxy, starting a process of gas stripping as the fast-moving dwarf interacts and is slowed by the comparatively dense disk of our galaxy. Curiously, some of them have been discovered to have supermassive black holes at their core that rival the mass of our own. What if they're actually intergalactic starships of a supremely advanced race that has manufactured their own dwarf galaxies to contain portions of their immense empire during the long journey? And now they're beginning to invade our galaxy, like the tendrils of the Warhammer 40,000 Tyranids. Story 17. Well, I don't know about theory, but there's a fact that I find quite disturbing. Actually, it's like the most depressing, disturbing thing ever. Have a drink, smoke if that's your thing. This isn't going to be nice. Okay, you are nicely medicated? All right, here we go. There's a video on YouTube by Melody Sheep called A Timeline of the Universe. I think it's a scale of time that doubles every 5 seconds, starting with our year now anyway. Sometime through this fascinating fast forward through time, a fact is presented that shows the actual amount of time that life in general can exist in the universe as a percentage of its total. And it is a shocker. The number is something like zero point 0.0, and so on 1%. That's the time that we have as a fraction of the universe's existence, from the Big Bang until way past even the last supermassive black holes, have evaporated away into a sea of absolute nothingness, infinite, endless, unceasing darkness and cold, where nothing happens and it keeps on not happening. The futility of that knowledge is probably the kind of knowledge that should be hidden knowledge. What happens to some super ancient intelligent civilization that has beaten all comers and managed to be the last standing at the end of all extractable, reliable forms of energy? The last ones left staring at the dark and the cold, screaming at the emptiness. Story 18. I remember reading in The Theory of Everything about a theory of Stephen Hawking that entropy eventually reverses, as in, the universe will eventually reach a critical point such that it will no longer be able to accelerate in the outward direction, stretch, and will snap, accelerating inwards, compressing until it reaches a critical state, for instance, a singularity, unleashing into the Big Bang as we know it. This process continues ad infinitum. This is what I remember, and I could be remembering incorrectly. He also posited that life as we know it cannot exist within a world where entropy trends towards increasing order, which explains the fact that we, as humans, live in a universe that trends towards disorder. Story 19. Rather than of the universe of existence. What's the true form of things? We see things as they are because of our senses. But what are their true objective features? It can't be a mathematical representation because that's something we invented to understand physical properties, unless math is a fundamental truth. To us, the vision of a dog is incomplete. They don't see as many colors as us, and they get blind easily. But for dogs, the smelling sense of a human is very incomplete, almost non existent. Why would we argue that the human filtered world is more real than the dog filtered world? And what are the senses of us, animals, really filtering? What's the true shape of everything? Is it an array, a giant matrix of waves and particles? Perhaps if something could sense the objective reality, we would understand much better all our natural cosmos in unity, not a separated theory for every phenomenon. We can just imagine and represent such reality, but it is forever hidden from our sight, hearing, smell, etc. Story 20. It doesn't necessarily make my brain hurt, but it is something that is very interesting and humbling to me. You are as much the universe as anything else that exists, as much as the star that keeps us alive. We are simply an aware form of a small piece of the universe. We are the universe trying to discover itself in a way, trying to figure out how we work. There's never a need to feel insignificant. Everything, when taken as an individual object or thing, is insignificant in the grand scheme of things. But insignificance is only a concept we created. The universe doesn't have an established order of importance, it just is. And in my opinion, that's a pretty liberating and almost comforting thought. The reality and time and consciousness I experience may be vastly different from others, but I am nonetheless a piece of everything, and what makes up me has been here since the beginning, if there is one. Story 21. The universe tricked a collection of chemicals to interact in such a way that they tended to self-replicate their organized structure and continued to increase in complexity against the tendencies of entropy. It continued to gain density and complexity until a living organism formed. That organism continued to evolve in such a way that an inherent consciousness formed that could think and learn. Its ability to think and learn developed to the point that it was able to invent abstract concepts like language and literacy, which it is using to read this comment. You are one of those self-replicating consciousnesses. Your consciousness is the most complicated thing in the universe. It is generated by a supercomputer that runs on approximately 20 watts of power and can be fueled by lettuce. That's about a third of the power draw of an incandescent light bulb, with the ability to calculate the equivalent of a billion calculations per second, thousands of times better than our best supercomputers can simulate. You are an accidental science experiment of the universe. You are the result of the universe forgetting a sandwich under its car seat for too long until stuff started growing on it. Your experience comes with the baked-in inability to comprehend what the non-existence that came before you were born, or will come after you die, is like. All meaning, including what is good or bad, right or wrong, is assigned by our collective consciousnesses. These concepts do not exist outside of our heads, or anywhere else in the universe. Story 22. Did anybody else come here to talk about tachyons? They've never been directly observed, but they're theoretically possible. They travel faster than light, which effectively gives them a negative mass and reverse causality. If one flies by you, you won't be able to see it coming, but when you enter its light cone, you'll see two versions of it emerge from nowhere and zip away from each other in a straight line at the speed of light. One image is from the light reflected by its approach finally reaching you after the particle has already passed, and the other is the light reflected back at you as it goes. Hypothetically, if you built a sniper rifle that could fire tachyons at 1 light year per second, you could take a position 1 light year from your target, fire at their year-old image, and the bullet would travel back through time and hit them when they were in that position. If you were in a sci-fi movie with one of these guns and FTL ships, you could literally end someone who pissed you off before they even did it. Story 23. We know that everything that is anything is made up of matter and energy. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. If this is so, the obvious question is what created it in the first place? It appears that either something had to have come from nothing or something has always been. In the case that something has always been, if time can be nonlinear, it would then be possible that there is and never was a beginning or an end to the universe. But instead, the universe is a never-ending continuation of the same thing. OR. Everything is, was, and will always be across space-time for eternity. Every moment in time and location in space has a coordinate on the map of space-time. And the map exists at all times, at the same time, forever. However, in both cases, if something has always been something, where did that something come from? How can anything be anything without being made from something? If the universe is entirely based on cause and effect, which it appears to be, how can there be no first cause for there to be an effect? Another theory for the creation of the universe is what's known as the quantum field theory, which states particles called virtual particles can indeed come in and out of existence from nothing, which is to say, it is perhaps possible that a feature of and/or the purpose of nothing is to create something. However, if a feature of nothing is to create something, how can it be classified as nothing? Would that not then make nothing into something? And if nothing isn't nothing, what is it and what made it? The loop never ends. It seems our brains were designed with the ability to comprehend the very idea of not being able to comprehend. Story 24. They say there's no two people on Earth exactly the same, no two faces, no two sets of fingerprints. But do they know that for sure? Because they would have to get everybody together in one huge space, and obviously that's not possible, even with computers. And not only that, they'd have to get all the people who've ever lived, not just the ones now. So they got no proof. They got nothing. Mrs. Soprano may have passed, but who's to say there isn't another Mrs. Soprano just like her? Or will be? Maybe not with the same fears and paranoia, but the same. What I'm saying is, it's a game of statistics. If the chance for something to happen is so absurdly low that it will not occur within 1 trillion years, you can confidently say it hasn't happened at all. That's essentially the same for the no two people argument. The variability of what makes a human different, or the same as another, is so high that there's no possible way it has happened statistically, and that's good enough for even the most rigorous experiments. Story 25. Yep, it's the same for me. The concept of time as a physical dimension that we can't see, can't alter our trajectory on, and which doesn't exist outside our universe, gives me a sensation a lot like brain freeze. You can't even ask what was before the Big Bang, because outside our universe there is no before, unless it is the time dimension of a container universe we exist within. Except it doesn't work that way. Imagine you're a being who can see, measure, and travel a long time as though it is simply another left, right, forward, back, up, down. Imagine you're being constrained to left or right, and saying to your wife at the end of a long workday, "Man, I'm sure not getting any left." It makes me think of those Lovecraftian images where the fabric of reality is pulled back at the corner like a sheet of paper, to reveal a macro verse behind everything. Scares the crap out of me to think that all of observable reality might be no more than a flimsy sheet of tissue paper that could be torn.